basically, the principle is that if we meditate on a symbol, and that includes a deified form or its specific symbolic iconography, if we meditate on a symbol, then this activates those qualities in the psyche. And not just in our individual psyche, but if we meditate on these symbols, they start to influence synchronicity. So symbols can activate the flow of time and space. And this is very much a normal biological phenomena that happens when people do various kinds of visualization practice. Synchronistic events happen. So this is the first part of the equation, understanding how the cognitive function works with these deity practices. And there are many examples that we have covered already. For example, we can meditate on a seed syllable. We've been looking at these seed syllables in every chakra. And these syllables represent what we have identified as vritti, to use the traditional Sanskrit. Vritti means thoughts or a mental construct or a particular kind of emotional mood, a kind of mental state or emotional state. And therefore, in the chakra depictions, there are all of these various Sanskrit syllables, and those syllables represent a mental state, a quality that we are trying to either increase or decrease. And that's an example of how we meditate on a symbol to activate a quality. Or we can visualize that we're holding a particular object. For example, today we're going to look at the medicine Buddha holding the Arura branch, the Arura flower, the Arura fruit. This is a symbolic representation that has a lot of meaning. The physician should practice generosity. That's what the mudra means. It's the mudra of generosity. So students of Tibetan medicine are taught to visualize that they have this mudra. They are generating generosity, and they are holding what? A plant. Okay, they're not holding a stethoscope or a pill. They're holding a flower, and this represents something. It represents the healing power of nature. So therefore, just in that one image of this mudra, the right hand of the celestial physician, that students of Tibetan medicine are taught, is that they're taught that they should cultivate generosity, giving nature's healing power. That's what that means. So therefore, if we meditate on a symbol, then it activates a quality. It makes us feel a certain way. And that begins to influence our personality, and people begin to respond to that. And therefore, we can use all kinds of symbols for all kinds of purposes. Or another thing that we have done when we were studying the third chakra, we meditated on solar energy, meditated on warmth. We could just meditate on that as a symbol or a biological sensation, or we could link it to the visualization of the Surya chakra and imagine that there is a wish-fulfilling tree in that chakra that has to do with the nourishment of metabolism. So all of these things illustrate one direction of this cognitive process. And this one direction is that we focus on a symbol and it creates a quality. Now, what we can also do, and this is where it becomes relevant for us, is we can do the inverse. Instead of starting with a symbol that comes from a cultural iconography, then we can start with the qualities, and we can see what symbols arise if we're meditating on the qualities. And this is the contemporary Western approach, is that we use visualization and affirmation, and this creates certain kinds of qualities that begin to influence how we feel about ourselves and perceive ourselves. And so therefore, these kind of practices change our self-perception. even though we may not even be aware that we're doing these practices at the cognitive level. So when we do affirmation or visualization, we generally have certain kinds of goals. For the most part, these goals are not as lofty as visualizing ourselves as deities so that we can become fully enlightened, but they have to do with generally thinking about higher states of well-being. We would like to improve our health. We would like to magnetize and attract a relationship. We would like to make it rain money. We would like all of these different kinds of things to happen. And this is part of aspirational thinking. And we do this all the time. I mean, this is probably a huge process in the collective psyche that is represented instead of by deities of enlightenment or the powers of nature. Now what we have is we have celebrities and athletes and rock stars and all of these people that are kind of like deities now in our collective psyche. And they represent role models, and people aspire to be those, just as we are aspiring to be a deified form. People would aspire to be, you know, somebody very wealthy and famous and gorgeous and well known and all of these things. These are the same process. This is the same process of deification. So therefore, what we have, to sum this up, is we have two ways to do the same thing using our mind. And when we study the chakras, we are confronted with this cultural complexity because it starts with the iconography. And we meditate on invoking a deity, communicating with a deity, invoking ourselves as a deity. And we visualize on the symbols, and the symbols develop the qualities. But on the other hand, we can start with contemplating the qualities instead. And this is the contemporary system of affirmation, visualizing our goals, visualizing ourself in a particular kind of state. And then from that will come associated symbology. Therefore, in many manifestation trainings, you are taught to start thinking of yourself as being wealthy. And you start to visualize a new mental environment and how that's going to be once you arrive there and how your outer conditions are going to change. Well, this is Tantra, basically. This is the same basic principle as visualizing the world transformed into the celestial palace of the deity. That's the overview. Now, let's do a short practice to consider what this means, because when we go back to our contemplation of the deity in the heart chakra, we will be immediately confronted by the fact that most of the practices use deities when they are invoking the heart chakra. Most of the heart chakra practices have some kind of deified form that's visualized in the heart. And that's wonderful, it's beautiful. But it raises this question, what if we don't have a particular affinity to that culture? We don't want to do that. If we understand the cognitive process, then we can start with the underlying goal and understand what it is that we're doing. And therefore, we can follow very respectfully a very high level of awareness and understanding and respect for these traditions without adopting a specific kind of iconography. This is actually a very important aspect of these practices, is to understand what we're doing and why. So let's do a short sequence here of stages of meditation that you are quite familiar with. But now let's identify what it is that we're doing, and let's put it in the context of making this a source of inspiration for our own positive visualizations and our own affirmations and our own process of apotheosis. So make yourselves comfortable. Let's do a short practice. Make yourselves comfortable for a little meditation here.